Indiana just changed college football for the better. Or did they?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, I think they did. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor here on this Wicker Wednesday. It's brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Cam Stewart from Rogue Media Sports, alongside Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6, who joins every Wednesday in the wake of a national football championship for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Hoosiers.
It feels weird to say out loud. Weirder than the Hoosiers thing is that they just won a national championship. We're going to talk about how that affects college football, all of us in college football. We're going to do our winners and losers from basketball this week. And speaking of basketball, it's become pretty obvious that Scott Drew misses this guy more than any on this team right now. He's not going to come out and say it. He's got too much class for that. But we'll tell you who he means coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. But we start where we start, Sydney. Hoosiers, national champions of college football, undefeated, Heisman Trophy winner, blew past pretty much everyone until, the national championship game. That was close. Heck of a game. Miami, I was surprised Miami made it close. I thought there was just going to be a point where the floodgates open for Indiana. It didn't happen. Now the losingest college football program in history has a national championship. And we can get doom and gloom, you and I, and people that watch and listen to the show can get pretty doom and gloom about the state of college football today. I don't love it overall, not as much as I did, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what I grew up with. But this, Indiana winning it, first time national champion, always terrible. Winning it all. Is that a good thing for college football at the right time?
It's so great. I think this was kind of something everyone needed. Indiana is not the blue blood program that everybody talks about. And, I think it's funny because I've said I've seen more Indiana people or Indiana fans come out recently. It's been a coming out party. So I'm like, I didn't even know you went to Indiana because it's not something you talk about.
A lot in the business, huh?
A lot
in the media, I've noticed. And I've worked with a couple that did go to IU. It's a good school for it. Joe Buck went there, but I am starting to notice, like you, there's a lot of people covering this sport that are Indiana grads. So I thought, it's funny.
Yeah, and it was a storybook ending. I mean, who wasn't smiling watching Fernando Mendoza? I think everything with his mom and his career and his journey that he's had. And I just feel like he's become such a lovable guy that people have watched. Also, as a member of the media, the guy answers questions and he elaborates. And I think that's fantastic. It's funny because when I watch him do his interviews, I'm like, are they not going to cut him off? Like, he's been talking for like 2 solid minutes here. But I do appreciate that about him. But I thought it came at the right time. They're such a fun program to watch. They really dominated all season long. And I think this gave hope to a lot of people that if Indiana can do it, why can't we?
And I think that is the point I come back to. I talked about this on the show last week of like, it's great that Indiana's doing this, but Baylor can't do this under the way that they're structured right now, not with this coach, not with this administration kind of getting involved too much. That's kind of still the way I feel. But that said, like, I've been under the impression my whole time being a Baylor fan that it's not possible. Like, Baylor can't win it. We can have some, and after the Bryles thing mainly, because they were obviously in the picture then. Like, you can have great seasons without winning a national championship. You can be in the conversation sometimes, but it's not for schools like us. When I see TCU lose by 58 points in the national championship game, it reiterates that this is a bridge too far for schools like us. And now here's Indiana 3 years after that as the national champions. So is that false hope that is given to every school? Or do you think this works the other way, where schools like Baylor and TCU or, Vanderbilt, Stanford's had some good football history, but losers, Rutgers, look at it and say, you know what? If we make one right choice and we really focus on this sport, we can get there. Do you think that's how it works, or is it just kind of false hope for everyone?
No, I don't really think it's false hope. I think this was a good example of it can happen to anybody. You mentioned it. They were one of the worst programs, losingest programs in all of college football. And then here they come. And it all started with the guy that they brought in. Curt Cignetti is a winner. He's told you, Google him.
Google him. Yep.
And it's obvious that he was the right guy. I think Holly Rowe, an ESPN reporter, she did a little like video when she was leaving Indiana's last practice before the national championship. And she was like, I'm just so in awe with this team because not only are they so great and so competitive, but these guys like genuinely love each other. She was like, as they're finishing practice, they're all hugging each other and saying like, I love you, man. Like we got this. And so Curt Cignetti, he created that. Those relationships that those guys have and the reason that they want to play for each other, he established that. And he came into this program with the belief that they could win a national championship when everybody doubted them out. So I think it just all starts with the right person and who you got. And it's obviously it's a coaching thing. If you've got the right coach, you can do anything.
You hear that, Baylor? You hear that, Duke? You hear that, Rutgers? You hear that, Oregon State? You know, like you can do it. You can do it. And obviously we have seen Baylor, you know, have some pretty good highs in this century. TCU, Utah, you know, Boise State, obviously. Like those schools have had high highs, but like this is the ultimate. And I would have taken any of those other schools I just listed, the Baylor's, TCU's, Utah's, Boise State's, over Indiana to win a national championship for sure. In fact, I remember when Cignetti took the job, we just knew him as the JMU guy. And my dad texting me and being like, why do you take that job? You know, here we're talking about a Big Ten school versus JMU. And he's like, the guy is in his 60s. And he's like, and my dad's like, why not just stay there though? Just like be a legend there. Like you go to Indiana, your career's over. You're not going to win and nobody's going to care. It's never going to be a football school. That was 2 years ago. It was not 10 years ago. It was 2 years ago that he said that. And I agreed with him wholeheartedly. And yet here they are. And Fernando Mendoza, man, what a story. Like you said, goofball, total goofball. You know what I thought about as he was helicoptering into the end zone for the basically game sealing touchdown.
Yeah. That was a Heisman play.
I mean, 1,000%. I got goosebumps watching it. And I was just thinking, could have been Baylor. Could have been Baylor's quarterback. He was Jake Spavital's quarterback at California, before Spav took the job here. That's all I'm saying. And that's not even against Sawyer Robertson, because when Spavital came in here, the guy they picked was DeQuan Finn, not Sawyer Robertson. So probably should have been Mendoza over Finn, not Robertson. But hey, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Could have been us. But I think to kind of sum this all up, you know, I still don't love where college football's at. A lot of coaches don't like where college football's at, obviously in terms of the portal windows, the NIL money, but also how the schedule's working out now. That's becoming the next big thing. And it's just, this is college football not being able to do anything right. And the sport being about 10 programs. Indiana's not one of them. And here they are. They have broken through the glass ceiling, so to speak. And I do think that gives hope to everyone else. And I think it's a big win, Sydney, for old coaches more than anything.
Absolutely. It proves that old school football can still win games. They talk about it all the time. There's certain old style that is relevant. I think even Jim Harbaugh, he's not super old, but he likes to run the football and play kind of an old school style of football, and it worked. It won a national championship, and I think, you know, there's something to be said about that. And I don't know, Curt Cignetti, the way he looked yesterday, he looks like he's got a lot more years left.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's like it's a good day for just coaches who are old. Like it was Fritz and Cignetti in the same cycle 2 years ago. And that really broke the mold. Like I'm telling you, you look back and you know this too, NFL as well, but football in general, we're just looking for young guys wherever they could find them, as if that was just automatically better. And there were guys like Curt Cignetti and Willie Fritz who were left behind because of that. And like, who knows, who could have hired Cignetti instead of Indiana, because he does win everywhere. And JMU was on a hell of a run, in their first years in FBS after winning FCS national championships. And, it could have been another big program. It could have been Alabama. Instead, Indiana took the chance, and they are reaping the rewards of it. So it gives hope. Gives hope to everyone. A plucky little school with the most living alumni in the country. But it hadn't helped them before. I'll just say that. And the other thing, too, is I know you know this, and we kind of pointed it out last week. They're not like dumping bucket loads of money. I know they've got Mark Cuban. I do. Like, I'm not stupid. Well, sometimes. Most of the time. But they're not even spending the money that Tech is spending. Like, they have a good coach and a good culture, and it's working. And I think that's the part that should really give hope to everyone.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought that was interesting in his press conference. He was like, you guys don't realize how much NIL money we actually have. He was like, everybody keeps saying, well, they've got more money. That's why they were able to do it.
It's going to basketball.
Excuses. Yeah, they don't not. And I thought that was a really interesting point that he brought up, because we've even talked about it. And Indiana I've used as an example before. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, they do have NIL money, but how are they using it? It's I wish we could get a breakdown of how all of this really, really works and plays out. But it's, I think they proved a point, though. It's not always all about the money. It helps, but it's not all about the money.
Shout out to Indiana. You're going to make us all delusional one day, but in the best sports kind of way. Anyway, coming up, we've taken a look at some winners. Let's get some more on the hardwood, and maybe the losers of this week in the Big 12. Is the championship race starting to take shape in late January? Let's talk about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. College football is great. It's over, and that stinks. But you want to go next year? You want to go college basketball? You want to go NFL, NBA, anything that needs a ticket? FanDuel has got you covered. I was about to do a game time thing. I just started rolling completely into game time. Okay, let's switch that up. It's FanDuel that I'm talking about. FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app every college football playoff game day. And yes, that is the read that's in front of me. Here's what I love about it, though. You get to use the profit boost whenever you want on the bets you already feel good about. Like, this is simple. We've all been there where we're like, I really have a good hunch on this. I want to put something down, but those odds aren't long enough. I'm not going to win anything off that. What's the point? That's where the profit boost comes into play. Ride with the favorite when you think they're controlling the matchup, or take a shot on the underdog and get an even bigger payout. You apply that profit boost, bigger winnings, and when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football, which is still going on, just not at the college level. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoffs long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. FanDuel.com. Love our sponsors, man. They keep the lights on, but it's kind of weird 2 days after the last college football game. Anyway, let's talk college basketball, because most of you skipped through the ad anyway. Winners and losers from this week in Big 12 basketball. That is going into Tuesday night, as I need to reiterate again, because last week I think we talked about, oh man, this Baylor team's tough to watch, which is still true, but then they had an awesome performance on Tuesday night between our recording and releasing. So we do need to make that clear once again. All right, Sydney, I think we started with Wicker's winners last week. Let's start with your biggest loser of the week in the Big 12.
All right, my loser this week has to go to Iowa State. Man, a top 5 team, and back-to-back losses last week to Kansas, where you lost by about 20 points, and then a close one where you lost to Cincy still by almost 10 points. I think that loss to Kansas really stung, and they carried that a little bit into the Cincy game. But man, that just really, really stinks to be from super high up and then to kind of take this big reality check to two teams that this is not the best Kansas squad we've ever seen.
Nope.
And Cincy, same situation. So
yeah, could you imagine losing to Kansas this week? That would stink.
That
would be the mark of a loser. But it like that, honestly, Kansas probably was riding pretty high after beating Iowa State and then playing Baylor. That was clearly a get right game for KU, and they treated it as such. And we joke about it, but Iowa State's much better than Baylor. Like Iowa State should be beating Kansas this year. And then Cincinnati, man, that was a fan base that was like ready to protest. They were like going to do a walkout or something. Like they were sick of how bad their team was, their program was going, and then they go and beat Iowa State. So that checks out. My loser of the week is going to go to TCU, the Frogs, baby. They won their first game of the Big 12 schedule. Won't say against who. Just remember that they won at home. And then they went on to lose 4 straight. And that's where we stand as we record on Tuesday night. They're 1-4 in the conference. And then Saturday, they head to Baylor. After hosting Oklahoma State, they will head down to Waco, little 5 p.m. Central Time tip-off on Saturday. That is to bring it back to this show. If you're Baylor, you feel like you got to have that one.
For sure.
That's a team that's equal to you, if not a little bit worse. Like, they're not head and shoulders above you. You played them tight last time, even after having a putrid first half. That feels like one you got to have, and they never beat TCU at home for some reason. You got to have that one, especially when TCU's our loser of the week. But yeah, 4 straight losses. Not all of them are created equal in this conference. You lose at BYU by 6. That's kind of a moral victory. You lose to Arizona at home. It's no moral victory when you lose by 13, but you lost to the number 1 team in the country. But then you follow those up by playing Utah and losing to Utah. And what we talk about with Baylor, like, those are the dog fights. You've got to beat the teams that are on your level or a little bit worse. And for TCU, Utah's on your level or a little bit worse. And you didn't take them out. And that's like home or away. Utah's not a tough place to play. Atmosphere-wise, TCU's not that tough a place to play atmosphere-wise. Depends on the day for Baylor, what crowd they get at Foster Pavilion. That can be a cauldron, but sometimes it's not. So that to me makes them the loser of the week. All right, let's flip to the good guys, the winners. Although I think both of our winners are Baylor rivals, so calling them good guys might not be great. Who do you have as your winner this week?
My winner this week is going to go to Houston. Good wins this week. Dominated Arizona State. Hung 100 on them.
Yeah.
Pretty good win. And then
Conference
also
game to hang 100 for Houston to hang 100. Like, when they're off, defense is still their specialty. That makes this team scary because they could score.
Yeah. And then also beating West Virginia. 2 big wins this week. They just look good. Competed for a national title last year. Yeah. Just dominant right now. So they're my winner. What about you, Cam?
That's an easy one, man. They just kick the crap out of teams. Mine is a team that usually kicks the crap out of teams. Hopefully that's not the case in the night that we're recording this, because my winner is Texas Tech. Not a nice little run here. They've won 3 in a row after losing to Houston, which, no shame in that, man. That is a terrific matchup the last couple of years, at least since McCaslin's been there at Tech. But they took down BYU at home on Saturday. Huge win. I mean, those 2 teams, it's really like the top 5 in the Big 12 are all national championship good. They truly are. And Tech and BYU are very much that. That was a really easy game on the eyes on Saturday. Super entertaining. And Tech comes away with a big statement victory after losing to Houston the week before. So, I mean, it's incredible at the top of this conference, man. Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, BYU, Tech. every one of them could win the Big 12. Every one of them could go to the Final Four. Well, I guess that's 5. So 5 can't go. But they're capable of going, and they're all capable of winning a national championship. So that's my winner of the week. It's a good basketball conference. Did you know that?
I was going to say, can we just talk about how fun it is right now?
Is this what it's like? Is this what SEC football fans feel like?
It's got to be pretty close.
I guess so, because, we're going to talk about it in the next segment, but there's some Baylor players who came over from not the Big 12 who are struggling as the Big 12 gets going, man. This is really good stuff, and I'm hoping that more teams make a run this March, because the last 2 Marches, there haven't been enough runs. Obviously, Houston was a play away basically from the national title last year, so no shade on Houston, but we just haven't gotten I need 2 teams in the Final Four. Need something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what Baylor needs is this one guy they don't have, and we could have saw this coming, could have seen this coming, but as we sit here in late January, this is the guy that Scott Drew misses the most. We'll tell you who that is coming up next on Locked On Baylor. Locked On Baylor, Wicker Wednesday here on the show, the number 1 Baylor football show on YouTube, but we switch our attention to basketball. I'm ready to claim that as well, claim that national championship. But it has obviously been a struggle for Baylor basketball to start the conference schedule, 1-4 in the Big 12 as we record this, and still just looking to kind of find their roles here. Still trying to find out who plays what role, what their best lineup is. And that's something you do have to figure out in the early part of a conference season. But I think with this team that has flipped over their entire roster, it becomes even more paramount. And one of the spots is at point guard and running this whole offense. Scott Drew had this answer about, what can make that run more smoothly? How do you get these new guys involved more, like Obi Agbim and Mikey Ratai? And here's what Scott Drew had to say.
It's a learning curve for everybody when you come to the Big 12, and with that, I think it's harder for us right now because we don't have that guy that can get you 6 to 8 assists a game, and when the offense breaks down, somebody that can put 2 on the ball and command that. So again, I think it's got to be done by many hands make light work, and if we can get Obi open shots, he's going to make them. Mikey, we put him in position to score, and he last game he had some great looks, missed, but we're great with that. He struggled shooting, but he's a good shooter, and he's going to make those if, I pray teams keep giving him those looks because he'll make them pay.
You'd like a point guard that can give you 6 or 8 assists every night. Guy who, when the play breaks down, could still get to the hole. That just reminds me of 2 words, Rob Wright.
Yeah.
That's a guy they miss.
Big time. Big time.
And that's a guy you planned around this guy too.
Absolutely. That was so I think we saw so much untapped potential from him last season. He had so many big moments, and you were like, gosh, this guy only has so much more to give. And you're seeing it right now with him at BYU. He was, one of the team's leading scorers in their game against Texas Tech. 28 points. He had almost 30 points. In that game, he had 3 assists. So still putting in the work and doing it. And you miss that. And I think really what Baylor needs and misses the most right now is just that it's that guy. They don't have they haven't established that guy. VJ, we talked about him constantly. Right now, we're talking about different names after every single game, which is good to have versatility, but it's not winning games. You need a guy to rely on and support around him for when he's getting guarded and you don't have as much luck with him, somebody else can step up. I think that's the biggest difference between last year's team and this year. We haven't seen that one guy just shine and step up to the plate. Yeah.
This was his year. It's kind of his year right now too, but this was his year at Baylor. I think they were pleasantly surprised at how quickly he adjusted to the Big 12 play and really to major college basketball play. He's an undersized guy. And I think they were really impressed his development his senior year at Montverde and then in his first year at Baylor, because they were going to give him the keys this year. And that could make a humongous difference, because let's be honest, this team does not have a true point guard. Obi Agbim, nice player, just not really your point guard in this league. It's just not. And I think they found that out last year too, because they wanted to use Rob Wright more, but Jeremy Roach comes in on a big number, a big paycheck, and he says, I'm the point guard. And that hurt Baylor more than it helped them last season. And it just makes this whole saga look even worse from the spring, with Rob Wright's dad and what it was supposed to be. It was going to be Villanova, and then it was BYU, and that was after they had a deal in place at Baylor. It changes everything. And like you said, we've seen that Rob Wright growth, man. He's been phenomenal at BYU. I mean, the scorer that he has become, 18 a night on top of the 5.5 assists. Like, that's a guy who could give you 6 or 8 assists on any given night. He's jumped to almost 18 a game. He's shooting the 3 more, and he's hitting it a lot, 44% from 3. He has just been as advertised for this very good electric BYU team. And, you look at the other guys, Mikey Ratai and Obi Agbim, and their numbers have gone down. Ratai was a 17-7 guy at Oregon State. He's 10-6 right now at Baylor. Obi Agbim, high volume scorer last year, 18 points per game, 44% 3-point shooter. 3-point numbers have gone down. The percentage has gone down on the same amount of shots. His points are down by 11. He's trying, or to 11, I should say, from 18 to 11. And he's trying to be this creator, which he's not really. He's more of a catch and shoot guy at this point. And we saw that last year. His assist numbers are actually dead even. They're exactly the same. So Rob Wright really could have unlocked this team. It is interesting to think, Sydney, where this team could be right now and what our outlook could be with these nice role players and a real commanding point guard like Rob.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too. Last week I was doing some research on BYU and just looking at some different Big 12 guys overall. He wasn't even like the leading scorer when I looked last week. He was the 3rd leading scorer for BYU. Yeah. That's the depth that they have. Like, they've got guys who can shoot. And that was very prevalent. So yeah, it sucks. I know Baylor was really hoping if they lost everybody, at least they had him. Like, he was the guy that they thought was going to stick.
You could build around. Yep.
And here we are, just wishing.
Here we are, man. And they will face off, by the way. Can't wait for that. Yeah. I'm just trying to pull it up right now.
Yeah. Next month sometime. I know it's in February.
When that is February the 10th. BYU at Baylor. BYU, better team. Let's just say that. Pretty good team out there in Provo. And we'll see what it does for Rob Wright's NBA development. But let me know what you think. How much does Baylor miss Rob Wright? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We come at you every weekday, drop it in the morning on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. It has been a Wicker Wednesday. Sydney, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Cam.
Anytime, any Wednesday. And thank you guys for joining, you newbies, and especially you everydayers. Thank you for making this your first listen today and every day. Like, subscribe. It helps the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow on the next edition of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.